A new Holocron update has dropped, but most every player had known what to expect before this happened.
Just a few paragraphs in an email have shaken up the entire metagame.
We will take you through the changes, provide our thoughts on their necessity, and make suggestions on how you can adapt these changes at your next local event or for your prep for the big world stage.
This is episode 143, the email that changed worlds.
You have been well trained.
No.
You don't have to carry a sword to be powerful.
I won't fail you. Oh, do not. I'm not afraid. Please don't try.
Everyone, we are back for another week. We actually did 2 weeks in a row, which is a good trend for us right now. As you can see, Miss Kim Breeze is not with us this evening, but we have the illustrious, the ever-present Matthew Scott.
Illustrious. All right. Thank you.
The man behind the curtain.
He is the man behind the curtain, or at least the Facebook page. Yeah, well, welcome, Matt. Thanks for joining us. And you're always a delight to have on here. And now with the two masterminds here, I won't have to do much of anything, which is really awesome. I know. But it went from, like, nothing happening to everything happening all within the last, like, 72 hours in Star Wars Destiny. So it's pretty excited. But before we jump straight into Destiny, Matthew Scott, I know you have something that you're excited about that may be related, but we don't know.
Maybe related. So is it next Thursday already? Or next Friday, I guess technically, is Force Friday, October 4th. So I guess we're expecting a lot of new Episode 9 merchandise to come out, and there has been some speculation about whether or not that will include a new Destiny set. Remember, they surprised us. I guess it's been a couple of years ago with a Force Friday release at big box retailers, much to the chagrin of local game stores. So I don't know what to expect from next Thursday at midnight, but I don't know. I would love to see some new Destiny product on the shelf. It's a bummer that otherwise we're not going to get any until 2020. So
100%, yeah.
Yeah, that was a huge surprise. It was 2 years ago because we were me and Kim and a couple others were at Nova that weekend. So we were at Target that late at night and grabbed us as many of those 2-player boxes as we could. In fact, I think we went to a local game store the next day and bought a case of them. And I think I still have 3 in my closet, but hey, whatever.
Well, the thing about that kit too is like the Kylo was excellent, the Phasma was excellent, the Rey and the Poe like a deck together and were excellent. Like for how long did we tell new players, just go get 2-player kits, and you're good?
Yeah. They really killed it on that set, so I would love to see that quality of set come out again next Thursday or Friday, just to hold us over. I think it would be good. Wait, what is the date on Worlds?
It would be legal.
It would be legal.
It would be 2 weeks. Could you imagine if something the quality of Kylo 2 dropped?
Oh, yeah.
Force Friday, and they're like, all right.
Okay, now I extra want that to happen. Yes, Force Friday, new Destiny 2-player starter with just broken stuff in it.
Wouldn't that just be the thing? And they'd be like, we're sorry we didn't tell you. It was a secret.
Yes, we told you all the things were changing to help you prepare, and then we're going to drop on this thing that changes all the world. Yeah, no, that's wild. That'd be so cool. I don't know if it'll happen. I mean, it didn't happen last year. There was some speculation last year, but I think there was also there wasn't a big movie to build up to. Is that right?
No, there wasn't.
There wasn't.
There was Solo, but which set was Convergence? Already had kind of a lot of Solo stuff in it. That kind of seemed like their Solo set, right? So
I thought so too. Yeah, it's just one of those things, I feel like if they were to do something of the quality of that first 2-player set next Friday, you would have sort of simultaneous extreme excitement and panic. Depending on what quarter you were in. If you just spent like 18 hours testing this week.
Here's the thing, though. The 2-player starter is kind of a staple of the rotation block now, I feel like. Like, it came in, and it's a prominent part of the card set. So you would think that there would maybe be a replacement for it before it cycles out. So I don't know that we get that by next Friday, although fingers crossed, but I would imagine we have to get one eventually.
And you want to talk about that first 2-player set, since we're kind of on the topic. That new balance that came out today, or Phasma's gone. She's not on the holocron.
Yep.
So we're talking 913 again.
Mm-hmm.
Which sort of, I guess, if we're talking about prominence of 2-player sets, there's one of the most prominent characters, the only one to really see a significant errata. She's back.
Yeah, that's
So-
cool.
Yeah, that's an exciting change. There's a lot of good pairings for her at that point cost.
Yeah, I already see people saying IG-88, and I think that's cool.
Yep.
Time will tell if that's good, but I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
They're pretty cool. So since there is so much to cover, we're going to go ahead and jump straight into the news.
Let me take that back, huh? You'll find what you need.
So we're going to get on the hit list. First off, this is kind of just a neat little caveat. I'm sure some of you have seen it, unless you don't read the Facebook page ever. But Matt Holland, who is pretty much the only person in the news from FFG right now, said we can, if you don't want to go play for Worlds, you can go work for it. They advertise judges, come up and pay and feed them and house them and everything short of clothing them, although they probably get a t-shirt. Wouldn't be surprised. Or at least a vest. But
Yeah,
I thought that was
absolutely.
cool. I mean, I know we've seen them. Well, we've seen Cascade reach out for judges before. I don't think we've seen FFG directly reach out to players like this.
I don't know. Maybe.
I think it. I mean, it's interesting because they don't have a qualification for judging, right? There's no judges program or anything. So, like, how is he going to vet that the people who are interested in judging are actually quality people to judge?
They just have to promise to be nice. I mean, realistically, I have no idea. I don't know how you could vet that. Unless there's some kind of test behind the scenes or an interview or something. I don't know what you would do.
It's going to ask you some sort of random, the hardest rules thing that we've come across so far, and ask me how he handle it. Can you recite the point values of every card from the most recent set?
No, it would be something like, if you use a Taru Strike on Luke 3, what happens?
That would be the one. That's the one, yeah.
That's that first one.
That's the first one right there.
Set everybody off.
Yeah, right, for sure. The rules reference update did drop today, and that's going to be the focus of our discussion. But the other interesting thing about the rules reference when it dropped is we have our second official variation on the game in a multiplayer format, which is the Alliance format. Alliance,
yeah.
Alliance, not to be confused with Marvel's Alliance, because not only do they reuse art, but they reuse names too. But they have a 2v2 format now, so officially 2 players versus 2 players team format, where you have to have basically the only differences in the rules are it's two people against each other, sit across the table as pairs, and each player you can't do much to the other player's board except play upgrades on the other board. You can't share resources. You can't share damage or indirect damage, but you can play upgrades on the other player's characters, and you can still play even though all your characters are dead as long as your partner still has characters. So I guess you can still control and all that kind of stuff with your cards. So I mean, that format's been, I think, asked for a while, and I think people avoid kind of... I mean, there are those fan groups out there... I say fan groups. There are those groups out there who try these kind of experimental types. It's nice to finally have something to hold on to.
Absolutely. My local chat blew up. They all want to play it. So that's cool. Everyone's trying to team up. It's like, hey, you usually play Palpatine. I play Vader. We gotta work this out. We gotta be on a team. And someone said, can we play 10 Ewoks? And I said, I don't care what you do. You're playing the guy playing Vader first. It's like, it opens up a lot of really cool possibilities. I got a couple of guys that like to play X-Wings, and so they're like, can we have 6 X-Wings? That's awesome. So then, the rules are going to say, well, 3 each or whatever. But there's just a lot of excitement. There's a lot of excitement for a new format, and people are trying to brainstorm some stuff, You can do some cool combinations thematically that you could not do 30 points or even 40 points that you could do now. So, yeah, I mean, locally it caused a lot of positive response.
That's awesome.
I think it's a great addition. The free for all multiplayer was always a little bit weird for me because it's such a like political game, you know. Like I feel like you spend most of the game going, "Oh no, I'm not the threat, it's him." And I mean that's okay, that's fine, but it was a very different version of Destiny. But the 2v2 seems like a lot of fun. I would love to do an alliance tournament. I think that'd be a blast. And then if you have a terrible day, at least you share it with somebody.
Yeah, right. The local guys are already, we've got eight. When can we do it? And it's like, well, that would be round robin. So I don't care. Whenever. You know,
8 teams or 8 people? 4 teams? 8 people. 4 teams. 4 teams. That'd be cool.
But I think we go higher than that because that's with no advertisement at all. I mean, that's just like people in a chat saying, let's do it. So.
Well, and with multiplayer, you kind of like one is political, but two, you kind of have to build your deck around that format. Whereas, you know, aside from dealing with uniqueness rules, you don't necessarily have to build something that's special to this format to make it work. And I think it'd still be fun to play in that team format as long as you deal with your character pairings appropriately.
Yeah,
I think you might be rewarded though for building for it for sure. Like I think if you and your partner get together and strategize about like, okay, I've got this part covered. You know, if you can handle this aspect of the game, I think that will pay off. So
yeah, I'm going to run like an outrageous amount of resource generation, and I'm going to drop all the upgrades in control. But I don't have any, interaction kind of combat cards. I don't have anything to change the game. And you let the other guy pack that kind of stuff. There's a lot of really cool. Like if you're playing Vader, don't worry about playing upgrades. I've got your Vader saber for you. You just need to resolve those character dice. It opens up a whole lot of cool stuff.
And it's interesting that you can kind of plan. You can plan like who goes first if you win the roll off, because it's based on whose battlefield you take, right? So if your team wins the roll off, you can plan for your Vader to go second, play any upgrade on their Vader, even a 1 or 2 cost, and they get to overwrite turn 1 with a Vader saber or a Maul saber or something, So I think there's definitely some interesting potential.
100%. And it's like, it's one of those things where if it doesn't go super well, that's one thing, but having it as an option, particularly knowing that we're going to have to fill December with just stuff, is nice. It is nice. It's like if I've got Infinite Highlander and an Alliance tournament and some stuff I can start plugging into these weeks, then I feel pretty good about it.
What do you think about this format as a teaching format or bringing new players into the game? So you have an experienced player and a hey, I want to try this out player.
I don't feel like that's a problem. I think that'd be pretty cool, really, especially if you build the decks ahead of time and you were ready for it in that way.
Because I think with this format, there's nothing that says you and your partner can't collaborate or share hand information or that kind of stuff. So
no, I would expect it.
Yeah.
What I think could be really cool too is, we talk about theme a lot, and we talk about how we're talking about competitive stuff. We're also talking about a casual player, a theme player. And I look at this, and now I'm talking about how are we going to interact with like Build the Death Star, because Build the Death Star is way more fun and way cooler if 2 players are kind of working together.
Oh my!
You know what I? Like, how cool is that? Or like Destroy the Death Star, you got 2 guys trying to destroy the Death Star. They're all playing X-Wings or something. That's really cool. And it lets Destiny go somewhere it hasn't been before.
Yeah.
I guess depending on how many pilots they have in this next set, you could potentially put together Red Squadron between the 2 of you, like Biggs and Luke, like Wedge, and I don't know. Do we get Porkins next set? I hope so. But
hopefully.
That's neither here nor there.
So I don't know. In my mind, I see this and I think about how cool could this be for like a league where you're rewarding you know what I mean? Or you get extra points for, you play Sith, you play Jedi. We're going to kind of do this. So someone's playing Luke and Obi-Wan, and someone else is playing Vader and Palpatine. And so you can sort of set up really cool stuff. Or, you've got like a Maul and a Sidious, and then you've got like a Qui-Gon and an Obi-Wan. There's just a lot of cool stuff.
Oh gosh, I had something brilliant to say. It must not have been that bad. It must be that good. The one other aspect of these rules, which I thought was really interesting, was they really not overdid, but they really changed the way claiming worked and the utility of your battlefields. Because 3 of the 4 players get to claim, and when you claim, you get to use the claim action or power action on one of the unused battlefields. Mm-hmm. So all 4 battlefields brought to the game become relevant.
There's the last one that's flipped over, because one person still isn't going to claim.
Right.
So that one, I guess, would be the irrelevant one. But yes, they all matter.
Because you get to choose which one each turn.
My guess is when you tried to set this up, if like one person claimed and then the other 3 people had to like play out until they all passed, it was probably just awkward. It probably created an awkward part of the game. Someone was claiming super early.
Well, isn't that how it felt in multiplayer? It's almost like multiplayer paved the way for that, because once that first person claimed, everybody else had to kind of pass in sequence.
Yeah,
and that made the end of those difficult. So it's almost like almost like Game of Spoons. Claim. Oh, we're all claiming now. I'm intrigued. I actually think multiplayer was never interesting to watch played, and I think this could be a really interesting candidate for some good streaming content too. So I'm gonna have to see if my local is interested in putting something together. The GQs are on hold. That's a new thing. So after Spain, FFG finally came out, actually within the last hour or two, and said after the Spain GQ that they are rethinking their, I guess basically the Galactic Qualifier concept. I think part of it has to do with Cascade Games seems to be no longer hosting these ancillary events across the country. They've moved on to, from FFG has moved to Yeti Gaming. With X-Wing, and so they have said or been quoted that they're taking Destiny eventually. So there was a little bit of sky is falling from that, but when is there not? I can't imagine they're going to get rid of those types of events, but I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I hope they don't. I really liked the GQ format. I thought it encouraged a much wider variety of players to come to the event, because I feel like no matter how you did, you walked away with something pretty desirable. The participation cards actually were sought after, but and especially with the change to the structure this year, as long as you participated for a day or two, like, you probably walked away with a spot gloss, which there are no other Destiny events that reward just showing up and playing at that level. Like, normally you have to perform really, 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 really well. And that's fine. It's great to compete, to be among the top cut, to be among the best. But for those players who don't dedicate at that level, it's nice that they can show up and walk away with something really awesome too. Because frankly, we can't host events just for the 16 people who are going to make top cut. Like, that won't keep the game alive. We need GQs to bring in 64, 100 people, most of whom aren't really competing for that world spot. They're grinding tickets for spot glosses. So I think that format was a lot of fun and really good for the game. And if it is gone, I sure hope they have a plan to replace it with something similar.
I feel like the thing about GQs that I really liked, and you totally hit the nail on the head, was I'm a player. I like to win. Everybody likes to win. But I much prefer playing just sort of... I joke in our local, I play garbage decks. I just play stuff that looks cool, and I bring it and I play it, and if it does well, awesome, and if it doesn't, I tried. And the prizing format of like a prime doesn't necessarily lend to that, particularly the old regional structure. I did it anyway because that's just what I do, but at the GQ, it was so liberating to be like, all right, this is my Obi-Wan Kenobi, and it was awful. Like, I knew it was, but I still got to play. I played some great games with people, and I got something. Like, I knew going in I was getting something. And the second day, we knew there was just sort of broken nonsense and input. I played my Mace Windu deck because, again, there's no reason not to. You know what I mean? I'm still going to get tickets. I'm still going to get prize. And so I had a blast. I went with my local guys to a GQ. I did okay. But I had a lot of fun, and there was very little pressure. And so if you're a player that is playing to have fun, and I'm not saying we're not all playing to have fun, but there's a difference sometimes at that upper competitive echelon where we're really playing for pride or for whatever we want to call it. It was nice to not have to worry about it. And having a tournament that's like that, that's going to be a bigger event that allows just like stability. Yeah, it's cool, and it'll be a shame to not see that.
Yeah, I agree. I also appreciate that it kind of year round brought in traveling Destiny players. So I've met some prominent players at GQs in my local area because they traveled from afar. Probably my favorite game of Destiny that I've ever played was a nail biter with Riggs Mauler, who used to pretty often hit the top cut. And he had traveled in from Boston to attend it. And then I met, the Artificery crew who had traveled in from the Pacific Northwest to attend another one. So it was nice to kind of have that year-round traveling group of Destiny players instead of just Nova Worlds and we'll see you next year. I don't know.
Yes.
And so we hope. I think we hope because in the post they made a comment about awesome prizing tournaments in the future. Similar kind of thing, and to me, awesome prizing is spot glosses and free stuff. So
I agree.
Spot glosses and free stuff.
Spot glosses and free stuff. Let's have it happen.
Yeah, I saw somebody mention on the on one of the Destiny pages in a thread about this. We want spot glosses, not the color splash stuff that we got at I guess was that Nova or Gen Con. And I agree. I don't want those prizes. I want spot glosses.
Give me the good stuff. Come on now.
Yep.
Don't hold out.
And then the last thing, and this is also fairly recent, but there is news being shared. Sean from Artificery is sharing the registration information for what we believe is a Grand Championship that's going to be held in Vegas in January, which is pretty interesting. And so the question then becomes, are the Grand Championships something that they're going to have multiples of throughout the year at different locations, as opposed to the one that they've always had in the past? Yeah. Is it moving? It seems like January would be an odd time to have a Grand after Worlds in October. But
did it say when in January it was?
You trying to go?
When is it in January?
So he's trying to go. It's coinciding with the Las Vegas tabletop something.
It's just long enough after Christmas break that you can comfortably ask a day off from school.
There you go.
I don't know. More curiosity. I guess the real root of that question, aside from the fact, it'd be pretty cool to go play, is do we think there's a reasonable expectation for Covert Mission?
January 24th through 26th.
Yes.
I think that's possible.
Yes.
I don't think that's a crazy thing.
And that's the Las Vegas Open.
I hope so.
The Las Vegas Open is a tabletop convention in Vegas, apparently.
Because the Prime season runs through March, right? And we know we're going to get it during the Prime season. There's no way it's like March and we haven't seen new cards. But January is sort of... I'm going to be hopeful here. That would be outrageous. But I think January, late January, beginning of February is probably a reasonable guess. And so I look at the end of January for something like that, and I'm just like, man, is it going to be the world's meta again? Is it going to be the world's meta where they actually deal with droids instead of what they did? Or is it going to be... or is it going to be something entirely different with Covert Missions? I'm just curious.
Yeah. I don't know. That's interesting. That might be our first look at the new meta.
Hopefully.
The new meta.
I'm excited. I'm so excited. I'm always excited when things change.
Well, I feel like there's a lot to unpack there, so I'm going to play a title card, and then we're going to jump right into what you just said.
But you know what I always say. Speak softly and drive a big tank.
So the big news this week, of course, everybody who went to Worlds got an email from Matt Holland that said, here are some changes coming to a holocron near you, and that holocron was actually released today. The only thing he neglected to mention in his email was that Phasma is being released from her binds on the Balance of the Force list and is now returned to her original point cost. But first out of the gate, one of the things that they had decided to do was put C-3PO on the Balance of the Force list, moving him from 810 to 911. One of the two hits they made to the droid deck that Mike Hill is going to have to defend his "they really didn't do that much" comment. Go.
Okay, so here's the thing, right? You're going to lose a die. You're probably going to lose a die starting, depending on how you build your list. If you're playing like the Han droids, you got hit the hardest because you're going to have to flip from 2 Han to 2 3PO. Satine, you're going to be down a resource. You just are. But if you were getting 6 or 7 before, congratulations, you're still getting 5 or 6. And if we're talking about the chopper list, losing droids day out hurts that deck way more than the other two. But it's still probably fine because Fateful Companions has always been the root of the problem. So it's like as long as can still be played and you're still getting just massive value out of that plot. I mean, you're getting 2 dice for that if you're resolving it in that fashion. I feel like it's fine. The sky's not falling for droids players. They're playing a little different maybe, but that interaction is still super powerful. And that plot basically giving you that kind of value will preserve that deck in the meta. It's tier 1.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's wrong. When that initially dropped, I mentally said, "Shelf your droids!" Yay, we'll get to see other stuff. But then after looking at it a little bit more, I'm not convinced that that's the case for all of the reasons that you outlined. I think we'll still see plenty of droids. The problem with the droids deck. Fateful Companions is problematic, but to me, it represents something that FFG has been doing since the beginning of the game, which is sneaking in a character that allows you to cheat the interactivity of the game. This happened initially with Poe Maz. Maz was a problem.
Fast hands was a problem even then.
Fast hands, yeah.
Yep.
And yeah, you're right. Fast hands was a problem, and then which they had to fix. Mm-hmm. And then Maz was a problem, and they never really fixed Maz. They fixed Poe instead because he seemed to be the worst half of that combo. I don't know.
Which led Maz into Worlds the next year.
Yes, exactly. And then after that came Sabine. Same thing. You get to activate, roll dice without them being interacted with. And then Sabine plus running interference was a million times worse.
That was the worst thing that's ever been.
Yeah. And so they just keep sneaking in these here's this thing that you can play that your opponent can't interact with, and we wonder what will happen. And the answer is always the same. It wouldn't be surprising, 3 years in this design, that being able to roll and never tell me the odds is more powerful, maybe, than the droids day out chopper 3PO R2 combo, but similarly powerful,
Sure,
and problematic for the same reason.
Yeah, if I can turn C-3PO sideways, hit 2 resources, and say that's 4 resources now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I mean, that's fine, but that's still a thing, because now I can play whatever I want.
Sure.
I can pay for every card in the game. I think the Watt errata was probably slightly more significant, because that deck crutched on Entourage, the Jabba deck did. And not being able to be Entourage, roll it out, get my resources, play Entourage again. That was big. I don't know why they refused to hit Entourage. I don't know if you guys remember when one of the first articles I wrote for Chance Cube was about a possible Holocron update. Mm-hmm. And I said Entourage needed to be hit, and they didn't do it. And so here again, we have Watt getting hit and not Entourage. Mm-hmm. So now we're 2 Holocrons in, and I'm going to say the same thing. Was Watt that bad if he couldn't replay Entourage?
No. I mean, Watt is a really good character. I actually really like the design of Watt. I think he has a great power action. I like him. I remember when the set first dropped, I pulled him in draft. And I thought, okay, his point cost is very appealing for draft, right? So I played him. And it took the first match to realize how incredibly powerful he is. And I remember all of my opponents saying, wait, is that what he does? Can I read the card? And I'm like, yes, evidently. That is what he does. I get to roll this in just because. But, once you start to pair him with things like Entourage, it's a problem. But I agree with you. I think Entourage is the problem, not Watt.
I mean, Watt's really good, but games have powerful effects. There are tier 1 decks in games. I mean, it just sort of is what it is. I guess I don't know. And for you to feel differently. I mean, seriously, Watt is very good. It's just, this felt sort of like the Jabba deck's doing well. What's making it work? it's Watt. But really, we all know that it's Entourage. Yeah, and you're not even really playing the whole Scoundrel package. I mean, you could, but you're playing Fickle Mercenaries, which is enough.
And it's funny because I think Jeremy basically said that in the article. The Watt errata was because of Entourage. It was interesting that they chose, like you said, they chose Watt instead of Entourage to fix. And
it might just be that Watts are rare and worth like $1, and Entourage is not. And you have
touching a legendary is, I can see that.
I mean, if you remember, like the Lat Gunship, like what that caused a card that was super high to go to like a $5 card instantly. And I don't know, maybe there's just some hesitancy there because you have people that have 2 and 3 copies of that card or more, you know, and it's like, I don't know that should really play into a decision, but you have to wonder, what's the reason you're not doing this? But it's, you know, ultimately, if there's not a deck it fits in where it's overpowered, then it's not a problem. And so maybe you're just trying to hit that. It's like with Vader's Fist. I don't think people complain about that card as much now as they did at one time when you could play it for free on Friends in High Places.
Wild. They also updated the restricted list, so they added Arena of Death, Droid Stay Out, and Ewok Warrior. So Droid Stay Out is on there, and C-3PO was on there previously because of a different interaction. As you mentioned earlier, Droid Stay Out cannot be used in any C-3PO deck because the restricted list prevents any of the... Once you pick one card, none of the other cards can go in that deck, which is interesting. And you're saying it's really the chopper build of the droid deck that may feel some impact from this, but the others maybe not so much.
Yeah, and you can still make that deck work. It's not like you killed it. You took away its best action sheet, probably. That doesn't mean you took away its action sheeting. You just took away the one that it probably liked the best. The real story there is if they slapped droids on the wrists with a ruler, they took a shotgun and just blew away the Gen Con Ewok deck. Because that deck's fine, but that deck loses its, you know, in the words of the Hyperloops themselves, it takes its closer. You know what I mean? That deck was the best closer in the game. You could do 6 damage with nothing. Claim, you're done. And now it doesn't have that. Although thanks to those guys in Italy, you know, maybe we have another Ewok deck. So
Rainbow Ewoks are here. That was cool. I even forgot about the Grand Champion of Italy. For those who haven't followed, because there wasn't really a splash of news for that, and I was kind of shocked that the Grand Championship built an Ewok deck that replaced 2 Ewok warriors in the plot with Plo Koon. So Plo Koon absorbs the existing the remaining 2 Ewoks abilities plus the ability of the Hoth Trooper. So when Plo Koon activates, it does 2 indirect damage plus 1 direct damage to a ready character.
Makes a ton of sense.
So he's actually, as long as everybody's alive, that deck is doing more damage per activation than the previous iteration of the deck.
It causes some different decisions. You can play some better cards because you can play blue.
You can play blue. Rainbow Ewoks.
And you know, it's one of those things. People will be creative. I think that this Holocron does just enough to make people start rethinking the format again. People are going to have to be wary of shields because the Ewok deck was always good at that. Kylo Ray's spectacular at that, and it's just going to be one of those things. Kylo Ray didn't get touched. I don't know what you would have touched, but it didn't get touched, and it was kind of coming into its own right as this happened. So we'll see, but I think that'll be a popular World's choice.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to think Kylo Ray itself is... It reminds me of Destiny the way it was before the support game came into play, right? Kylo Ray is Destiny's deck. It's kind of retro in that respect in a way, and you wonder, you know, each set comes out and they keep building the support package, and then each set comes out and they keep balancing or eradicating the support packages away in some respects. So, do you think that the impact? I mean, obviously at this point, Ewoks are probably not competitively viable. Do you feel like the droids decks were hurt enough to bring Kylo Ray up to a more prominent position?
I guess I would say this. How much were people really teching for Kylo Ray before this? Like, were blue villain decks running Intimidate because they didn't want to fight against, Ray's shields? Or were they just saying, well, if I run into Kylo Ray, then And I'm not saying Intimidate would be the card you would play, but, the fact is people tested against it. But if you're packing anti-meta, you're packing Desperate Measures. You know what I mean? You're trying to combat that stuff. You're not trying to combat Kylo and Rey. Mm-hmm. So I think that becomes a question. Can you put cards in decks that kind of shut off some of that? And if you can, does that affect how powerful the deck is? And maybe. I don't know. I think the droid deck is slightly weaker. I think they all are. But they were so good before that slightly weaker is still fine.
It's still okay.
That's fine. I mean, test your deck. Everyone should always do that, but right. I think it'll be fine.
Yeah.
So Worlds is, 3 weeks away? 4 weeks away? 3? Something.
It's creeping up on us.
It's coming real soon. So the big question is, does this Holocron update have a major impact onto the types of character lineups we're going to be seeing at Worlds, especially in the top 32, or not? I mean, aside from Ewoks, we're probably not going to see Ewoks.
You might. It would just be different. It would look more like the Plo deck, probably. You're not going to see the Gen Con Ewok deck. It's not good enough anymore, I don't think. I say that, Mike Jim's probably just got top of it and win or something, but it's I don't think it's good enough now with that change. I think it took a big hit.
Mm-hmm.
Top 32, I don't know. It probably doesn't affect what I was going to play, but I was going to play garbage anyway, so, I doubt you're going to see that as a top 32 thing. I think it does affect some things. I think 9-point Phasma single die is extremely intriguing for Rainbow Deck. That's cheap. You talk about the 13, but the 9 may end up being the I think you look at the droid decks and you say, is Satine droids unplayable? And the answer is no, it's fine. You're just going to have to play different. Chopper droids may end up being the best, even without Arena of Death. We don't know. We just... without any kind of results, and we're going to get a little bit. We're going to get primes the weekend 5th and the weekend of the 12th. And that'll be illuminating.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see what happens then, but I don't know. I think people are going to save their secret spice for the tournament that matters, so if someone feels like they found something that cracks this, they're not going to, I don't think, go to a prime and try to blow it away.
Yeah, there's always something at Worlds that comes to surprise us, right? I'm not really sure. I'm trying to remember. Worlds was so long ago last time, but I do feel like Joe really brought his drive-by shooting deck. That was really the first run at that. He made top 4, and Mike really perfected that Sabine Ezra back then. That was a mess. And then winning with what was it? Kylo
Anakin.
Yep. Kylo Anakin. Yeah.
Yep. Kylo's like my favorite card in Destiny. I was so excited.
Going back to the 2-player set.
Yeah, right. We
keep
coming back around to this.
That's going to make the entire last 30 minutes of the podcast irrelevant.
That's right. Can't wait.
When the new 2-player set drops on Force Friday. Yeah.
So here's a fun thing. Who would be in it? Who would you put into a new 2-player set on Force Friday? Just got Kylo and Rey.
Well, we've seen them reprint. We've seen them redo characters close before. I wouldn't be surprised if they did that.
I think you have to. I don't think you can have a Episode 9 themed product that doesn't feature Rey and Kylo.
I'm gonna be for real with you guys. If there was a good Kylo 4, that'd probably just have to be what I played at Worlds. I'll just have to make it work.
Can it be Kylo and a Force Ghost Palpatine with Rey and a Force Ghost Luke?
Is that too spoilery to be like, here's Palpatine, look at him as a ghost now? Like people,
but I think you'll get Force Ghost Palpatine as a support. Maybe we'll see.
Can you imagine opening up that 2-player set like, wow, I'm so excited for this new Star Wars product, and inside or just got Episode 9. Here's Ghost Palpatine. I'd be upset.
Right, Force Ghost Rey. Oh, what?
Yeah, right. Kylo with a blue lightsaber. It's like, what's happening?
Or a villain version of Rey. I hope not.
Yeah.
then I'm going to hate my life choices. If that happens.
Yeah, right. No, I don't know. I just think it's an interesting question, right? Like, because you probably do have to reprint those characters, and they're interesting characters. Because if the Rey was low, like 13, now you look at Kylo 2 again, because you've still got your plot.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It would just be interesting. And then on the other side, do you pick? Is it like you get a Leia and a Luke? Luke's a ghost boy. I don't know. You get a Poe and a Finn. That'd be cool. But we know we're getting Poe in the new set.
Yeah.
Do you get Finn and Rose? Just trigger everyone.
Or do you surprise everyone and make a Mandalorian themed set?
That'd be pretty cool, actually.
That would actually be really good.
I'll tell you what I'm gonna need though. I just need one that's a Rancor. Like I don't need any other characters. Just that.
I'm actually shocked they haven't introduced a creature card type.
It'll happen.
But
Are there none? No, there's none, huh?
they haven't explored that world.
There's no Wampas. There's no Rancors.
It's a 180 card set every 6 months, 9 months, year, whatever.
I see.
And the blocks are so small. Like it's hard to even. I mean, I'm shocked they're introducing the subtypes, honestly, because it's hard for them to build on it and before something gets rotated out.
Yeah. The subtypes have done a lot for this game, though, in terms of like being able to print events that had varying effects and synergy between characters. I think that was a really good step.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely, it was a complicated change.
Tab in the chat, the first person to chat on this whole episode, said Luke Leia versus Vader Boba is what he wants to see.
That would be cool.
Yeah,
actually, cool. A new Vader would make a ton of sense because we're about to lose Terror to Behold in however many million months it is until the set after Covert Missions. So.
Can we get a Shadows of the Empire 2-player set? Do you remember that book from the 90s? The multimedia event.
Yeah,
it was a book. It was a game. It was
substantial. Yeah, they won't go there, but I mean, there's taking so much
a
from
Bush Leia and
It was a soundtrack. I had the soundtrack
Chewie.
for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, someone composed music.
That would be so good.
Yeah. They are not afraid of their own extended universe right now, at least the Disney stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I would not totally rule out, stuff from comics. They've used Afro, relatively extensively. If you, I mean, I think there's some stuff there. I mean, look at half the Vader art we see on stuff now. So
yeah, right. It's all comic inspired.
I think the Force Friday stuff has to be about Episode 9, though. So I think you got to have Kylo and Rey, and then after that, I have no idea.
I'm telling you, it's Finn and Rose.
Got a new Hux, maybe?
Oh, that could be.
Oh,
cool.
you could have a Kylo Hux and a Rey Finn.
That could be.
I feel like Finn.
I could be into that.
It'd be nice to have a good Finn at some point in time in this game.
He deserves it.
Well, and Hux is played by Gleason, who also plays Bill Weasley, so it activates my Harry Potter thing. So I'm all about it. I got cross fandom stuff going on there. So.
All right. Well, obviously we've kind of come full circle here, and I will wrap this section up by saying everything we said in the last 10 minutes. We have absolutely no proof that any 2-player set is going to come out. Total speculation. We would love to see it happen, and if it does, then we'll come back and say, hey, we said that, and we were right.
And if it doesn't, we're going to look wistfully on it as a moment of pure bliss filled with hope.
In fact, we almost maybe have evidence that it won't happen, because I feel like it had been spoiled at this point 2 years ago.
Really?
Right? Remember, it got spoiled early.
I don't know. Not very, though.
Not very
A few
early.
days.
It didn't, even because I didn't even know about it until I could buy it. I mean, I was newer to the game, but
I don't remember how early. I feel like it was a day or two. I don't remember what happened.
I feel like maybe my FLGS was like, we ordered something for Destiny, but we don't know what it was. And
Yes.
All the stores said. Yeah, none of the stores knew what it was.
Yeah, I feel like that was true. I mean, that was definitely true, but I don't remember.
No, I remember somebody it was, I think, a Target employee had cracked one open or something and spoiled the contents.
Gotcha.
Of course, right? But yes, I do remember that actually, that my FLGS had said the same thing. Like, we ordered Destiny stuff. We don't know what it is. So they had no idea how much to order or anything. That was a mess.
Maybe I'll go ask our people. You heard anything?
Right.
Yep.
Oh, yeah,
They're going
well,
to tell me to go.
my person's in Paris right now, so I can't ask him.
Gotcha.
Wild. All right. Well, normally at this point in the show, we would review the answers to last week's question. Last week we said we were going to post a question about naming Kim's pork or Ewok plush, of which none of us ever got around to posting that question. So there aren't answers. I'm sorry. We'll save that for another day.
And that's why she went on strike this show, huh?
Yeah, no one named
No one named the Ewok. I'm never coming back.
That's right. Thanks everyone for watching. If you're watching live, of course, follow, subscribe. Amazon Prime, it is free, and you get our cool emote. That's about all you get for subscribing, but it really helps this channel continue on. If you're watching via YouTube, like, subscribe, hit the notification icon. I'm always thinking of new videos and never get a chance to make them, but we are doing this new weekly series of hit lists for Destiny news for the week, so check that out. If you're listening via podcast, please review on your favorite podcasting app. I will thank Matthew Scott, even though he's here and it's slightly awkward, for always keeping our Facebook page up to date and relevant. Thank you to all our Patreons. Please check out patreon.com/thechancecube for all the things that we offer. That reminds me I need to get the alt art out for this month. And last but not least, head to the App Store for iOS devices, the Price Watch app. It costs a pack of a price of cards. All that money helps support the programming here, and you get the most up-to-date prices, because I can't remember the last time I updated the prices on the website, but the prices on the app are updated every morning at 1:30 Eastern Standard Time, according to my computer, who runs the process.
Nice.
There you go.
Look at that.
And head over to our Facebook page, pinned to the top this week. How do you make the most during the end of a meta? What do you do to keep yourself excited about this game? And don't tell me you're playing another game, because that's not the answer. I mean, you can. You can play other games, but...
So Marvel Champions comes out soon. I don't know if you...
Bye, everybody.
This has been The Chance Cube, a Star Wars Destiny podcast, a non-profit organization dedicated to building community through gaming. Visit our website for all things Star Wars Destiny, including our Price Watch, Meta Tracker, and latest articles from the Chance Cube family. Find our latest videos on YouTube, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and visit us at patreon.com/thechancecube. Your patronage allows us to grow this program and help us give back to the gaming community by sponsoring events, giveaways, and supporting our own community building initiatives. This is Mike Hill, the voice of the Chance Cube. Thanks for listening. The Chance Cube is not affiliated with Fantasy Flight Games, Lucasfilms, or the Walt Disney Company.